Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming European election, the elections to the European Parliament. I am aware that in some countries, like in the UK and in the Netherlands, they could already vote. And I think today they vote in the Czech Republic, I guess, and somewhere else also. But I'm usually a little bit late, so I just make the video now. So first of all, I want to say, if you think that this election doesn't accomplish anything and that the European Parliament is just a joke, then yeah, you're maybe right. But we can use this election to make our voices heard and to show the public in the European Union and also everywhere else in the world that there are people here in Europe who do not agree with the mainstream ideas of globalism. Of course, the European Parliament is mostly just an advisory board for the Commission, and they don't have actual powers like a national parliament has still in some countries, but at least you know that this MEP seat is then going to a real European and not to a sellout. And also, again, you can use it just as a protest vote. If you really are disillusioned with the state of politics, just use it as a protest vote. Nothing wrong with that. So I hope that all my British listeners voted for UKIP, and I hope that all the German guys will vote for the AfD, and if you're Italian, you also know what to vote. In Spain, you can vote Vox. In France, you can vote for Marine Le Pen and the Front National. And there are more wonderful conservative nationalist parties throughout Europe in almost every country right now. It would actually be hilarious if Heinz Christian Strache from the FPÖ in Austria would actually manage to get into the European Parliament now that he had to step back as Vice Chancellor in Austria. So all my listeners from Austria, yes, all 10 of you, I hope you vote for the FPÖ. Of course, I heard voices over the years that said that the European Union is not a good thing, it's not democratic, and the power should reside with the nation states, and nationalists shouldn't really engage in any European election. But let me tell you the following thing. I don't care about names, so call it European Union or call it Holy League of White Caveman Beasts, I don't really care. I think we can all agree that this European Union that we have right now is, of course, on the path to authoritarianism and resembles something like the Soviet Union more than a Western democracy. I think we all agree in that, and that the people who are having any power in the European Union, the bureaucrats, the Commission, and all the officers there, that they do not have the interests of the European people in mind when they do what they do. I think we can all agree on that. So the question is now, do we reform the European Union or do we actually tear it down and build something else? Because I'm pretty convinced, and I think most people are, that Europe cannot really be a number of isolationist single nation states. I think some people want that, of course, but I do agree with what the mainstream parties sometimes say, that the problems of this world cannot be solved by nation states alone anymore. Yeah, sure, but I think it's a big strawman that they build against nationalist parties, that they actually want isolationism and just go back to the nation state and not collaborate and not trade with neighboring countries anymore at all. That's ridiculous. I never heard anybody say we shouldn't trade with France or the UK. That's ridiculous. Also, I think nobody right now wants to attack another country in Europe. Not that I have heard of, at least. So these are mostly strawmen from the left, and Europe was historically, of course, always strongest when they worked together, when they helped each other, and when they lived peacefully side by side. So this is, of course, a future we want to have. This is a path we want to continue on in that sense. But what we don't want is a authoritarian Soviet superstate. We do not want the United States of Europe. We want a European federation, as I call it for many years already. This idea that you need to have some kind of a platform on which you can negotiate, on which you can put certain problems or things on the agenda and try to solve them together as Europeans. But I think most of the power should stay with the nation states, period. And of course, there are many differences between the different parties that are more on the right or on the nationalist side. I named a couple of them in this video, but none of these parties strike me as having an opinion that they don't want to work together at all anymore with colleagues or other people from other European countries. What is not really mentioned anymore at all these days is the nice present that the French people gave us, and that is the euro. If you read your history, you will actually find that the Germans never wanted the euro, and the French forced us to accept the euro. Otherwise, they wouldn't have allowed us to reunite with the GDR, with quote-unquote Eastern Germany, which is actually Mitteldeutschland, so Central Germany. The reunification of Germany came with a condition, with a prerequisite condition that was imposed by the French, and that was the euro. And now no one really talks about it anymore. People just talk about migration, but the euro is still a huge problem, and it would maybe work for some northern countries or some Central European countries, but having Mediterranean countries and northern countries under one currency is just insane, and we need to stop that. And at least until Sunday, in this European election, you can bring people into places of, well, if not power, then at least prominent places where they can make these opinions, these ideas heard, where they can present these ideas to a European audience and have a lot of reach being MEPs. And one last final point, I talked about this before, but it really annoys me, and I hear it all the time right now. In Germany, in the media, they use phrases like a good European or a überzeugter Europäer, that means a convinced European, or literally translated, that is, it would be a European with conviction, or having European convictions. And then the mainstream and the media, they use the concepts or the words of the EU and Europe interchangeably. So if you are pro-European, that means you're pro-EU. If you are ein Europagegner, then you are against the EU. But literally they say you are against Europe, as if that were the same thing. So right now I think what the European Union really is an organization that takes money away from the most productive workers and gives it to foreigners here, to foreigners abroad, and to the elites of other European countries also, and to foreign countries, but I already said that basically. So it is basically just sucking the money out of European workers and corporations and giving it to everybody who doesn't deserve it on the whole planet, basically. And yeah, if that means being anti-Europe, then I'm anti-Europe. But of course I'm not anti-Europe, I'm against the EU. And again, the leaders that we have are not our representatives. They are the representatives of the foreigner. They are the representatives of foreign powers, and not of German workers, and not of French workers, and not of European people, and not of European corporations. They are representing foreign interests here in Europe. So I will vote for the AfD on Sunday, of course. I will vote for my own people, for our own country. But most of all, I just want to give my vote to politicians that have some residual common sense in this clown world in which we're living at the moment. And make no mistake, I'm normally not a person who says that the world is gonna end and everything will just be over very soon. Like, you know, if you always predict a crisis, then you're right every 10 years or something. I'm normally not someone who is a doomsday prophet, but let me tell you, I have well, it's more than a feeling. I really am convinced that during this year we will see a major economic disturbance in Europe and maybe even globally. So hard times might be ahead. There are many indications of that right now. And then it will become really uncomfortable. And I just hope that we can get a lot of things in order before this very uncomfortable period starts. We have to prepare for this, and one mosaic stone in this preparation mosaic kind of is voting for nationalist parties throughout Europe. That is not, of course, everything, but it is a very important point. I wish you a great weekend wherever you are in Europe or outside of Europe, and I hope to catch you guys again soon. Servus, Kameraden.